by 6. The Lions knocking on the door. Empty backfield. Stafford takes, throws, end zone. Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions! Calvin Johnson hauls it in. Second touchdown of the game, and the Lions march down the field. They're an extra point away from taking the lead.
There's not many better things than hearing Dan Miller on the call of the Detroit Lions or anchoring on Fox 2. I guess a close third would be having him live right now. Dan Miller, the legend himself. What's it like to see this, one of your great calls of all time?
You know what? It's I'd be lying to you if I told you it wasn't cool. It's when you grow up and you have a dream to do something like that. I mean, when you hear your voice on there, it's still, even today, there's a little bit of pinch yourself, because when you grew up, it was just what you wanted to do. And I mean, I won't lie to you. Look, when you turn on ESPN and you hear your voice, you're like, wow, that's pretty crazy. So it's cool. You just don't want to get it wrong. You just don't want to blow the call. You don't want to hear yourself because you got it wrong. And first of all, let me just say, the highlight of my night is that it says the Squatch next to your name. Kingpin's okay, but the Squatch steals it.
The Squatch. Dan, before I get into anything, and thanks so much for joining us. You've always been so supportive of me. And a lot of people will say, thank you for helping start Dan's career. Others will say, why the hell did you help start Dan's career? But I'll just say this. And Dave and I were talking about this as we were getting ready for the show tonight. There's no one nicer. There's no bigger pro. You've always been on a personal and professional level so kind to me. But Dan, everyone, and I know you know this, but you're so humble, you'll just like, oh, it's not true. There's no one in this market, which obviously is your market, and there's no Lions fan, and there's no sports fans that don't think you are one of the nicest, most professional, and best guys that has ever done the job you do, and I salute you for that. I really do.
Well, I appreciate that greatly. I mean, that means a lot. Clearly, you haven't seen my Twitter feed, but no,
or mine.
I know. I appreciate that. Look, back to what I was saying a moment ago. I'm blessed to do what I do. I mean, this starts out when you're in this business with hope. You come to Detroit with hope, and you have no idea how it's going to work out. And to be here for 23 years, I mean, I'm so humbled by that. It's a privilege. It's an honor. 23 years anywhere in this business is crazy. But to be able to come to a place that has the kind of fans that it has, my kids were this big when we got here. This is home for them. I have 3 Spartans, so it's like you come here with no ties to the area whatsoever, and then all of a sudden everything in your house is green, although I have to play it right down the middle. They're all green. And it's no, honest to God,
not like Caputo.
My wife buys me things all the time, and I'm like, I can't wear that. You don't understand. If I go to the gym in a Michigan State shirt, or I go to the gym in a Michigan shirt, I get the I knew it. And the funny thing is that I'll get emails from people on both sides. I get the emails from the Michigan State fans telling me I'm a Michigan homer, and I get the emails from Michigan fans telling me I'm a Michigan State homer. So it goes both ways. So I guess that means you're doing something right. But, back to what you were saying, look, I'm blessed. I've got a great crew. I have unbelievable support at Fox 2. I've had unbelievable support with the Lions and WJR and the people that I've worked with along the way. So, I'm like I said, just humbled, thankful, because I've seen in this business, as I know you two have, so many really good, really talented people who ended up in a bad situation, not because of anything that they did, but just because of the circumstances around them. I have this amazing station with an amazing commitment to sports. And you and I were talking before, and you said, wow, you and Hammer and Woody, 20 some odd years together. And I said, yeah, that's awesome. But it starts with the station. That's reasons 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is their commitment to sports that's allowed us to do what we do.
It's beautifully said. And I know you, we obviously have, you mentioned the Kingpin, the better of the Riegers. We love Jeff too. But you've worked with Dave in the past. I mean, obviously WJR and different shows. So there's a connection to you. And the oldest of the Riegers that's been in the business the longest.
Yeah, no, we worked together on Monday nights doing the Lions show, and you know what? It's WJR, all of them, Dave included, everybody over there from Nick to Courtney to, all the people that I get to work with have all been fantastic, and it's been a great experience, and Dave's a part of that. And look, when you get to work with good people, that's half the battle. I mean, it's just so enjoyable when you're able to do that, and you can get up and go to work, day, night, whatever it is, and know that you're just going to hang with good people. I mean, look what we do. Look at the press box on Sunday. We got like the greatest group of people in there from our booth.
I love being in there.
From our booth to all the people in the media in this town. I mean, it's, when we're on the road for the Lions and we get to go out to dinner, I mean, those Saturday nights are the best. And just because it's such a good group of people from, Lomas and Nick and Joe and Mike and Al, our Lions crew, to Wojo, to everybody that's involved, everybody that's out there, to all the beat writers, Kyle and Justin and Dave and, Mike, they're all just good people. And Chris, they're all, it's all, when you go to Allen Park, you walk in that room, it's
everyone knows everybody.
It's good men and women that you just love hanging with. So what could be better than that?
Well, I want to get into, of course, the lines. Everyone, we got tons of people in the chat. Jeff, Nemeth, actually, Charlie, all these guys saying that they love your calls on the Lions broadcast, and we definitely want to talk Lions with you in a second. But I want to take you back to your WJLA days back in DC, and that's you're a DC guy, and then you're obviously you're beloved in Detroit now. Can you talk about the journey from that station? And you mentioned 20, Dan, 3 years in the business is great. So the NFL, a 3-year career is great. 23 years at Fox 2. And you're so, and obviously I interned for you, and that's where it all started for me. So I know how great of a station it is. And we can get to obviously how important that, as you mentioned, was to the success you guys have had. But what was that kind of journey like for you at WJLA and then deciding to come to Detroit?
Well, I mean, I didn't take it back further than that. I mean, what I wanted to do, I wanted to do play-by-play, but I wanted to be on television. I wanted to do sports. When I got to college, I couldn't find a job anywhere. I mean, I tried. I was on the East Coast, so I tried up and down the East Coast, every little market you could find, and I got turned down everywhere. And finally, I just gave up, and I was doing radio. And I was doing talk radio and loving it and having a great time and working with really cool people. And I got a call out of the blue one day from somebody at the Fox station, a guy by the name of Duffy Dyer, not the catcher, but the vice president of the programming at the Fox station in DC. And out of the blue, he asked me if I could be a part of their Redskins pregame show, which, long story short, I did. And I stayed there and did some backup anchoring for them. And then I got the weekend job, as you mentioned, at WJLA, which was the ABC station there. And then
I can go back to WTTG if you want me to. I know all the history.
That's where I met the great Greg Canner, our executive producer at Fox 2, as I met him there when he was just a tyke. So I mean, look, I've had an alignment of the stars in my career where things have just broken for me, and I've been really fortunate to be in the right place at the right time a lot. But we were looking for another opportunity because I was working talk radio during the week and doing the weekends at the ABC station in DC. And we were looking for an opportunity to go somewhere and be a number one guy and work Monday through Friday, or in this case, Sunday through Thursday. And I had gotten an offer from ESPN in '97. It wasn't right. It didn't feel right. We turned it down. I wondered if I had made the mistake of a lifetime, which in essence, the guy at ESPN told me I did. But in August of that year, I got a call from my agent who said there's a news director in Detroit that loves your tape. And I'll tell you, Dan and Dave, I have been through applying for, I have no idea how many jobs, and just it hadn't come through. And when I turned the ESPN thing down, it was like a little bit crazy because, you've been waiting. And
of course,
just didn't feel right. And then I went downstairs after my agent had called me, and I said to my wife, I said, we have a news director in Detroit that likes our tape. And that's all I knew at the time. And I looked at her, and I still remember she was standing in the kitchen. I looked at her, I said, this is it, right? And she said, I know. And then I had the interview, kept asking for more tape. Neil Goldstein, who was big influence on my career, who's the news director at the time. And finally I called him up. I said, I don't have anything left to give you. What's it going to take to make you happy? And he said, I should be happy, shouldn't I? I said, yeah, but I don't know what else to give you. And then finally, a couple of days later, he gave me the job, and I ended up in Detroit. And it's been an unbelievable, journey. It's just been to be able to do what I've done here and find the stability, as I said a little bit earlier, and for 23 years has just been, as I said, a blessing. And you leave with, as I said, you arrive with hope. You just don't know how it's going to work out.
Well, Dan, you mentioned it about this city and how special it is. Obviously, I'm born and raised here, but I've lived everywhere, and I always knew I'd come back. When you first got to Detroit, being from DC and being in this new market, and obviously before you learned about what kind of amazing people and fans, teams that haven't won a Super Bowl or even been to one, they'll love them forever. What was your first feeling and reaction to the fan base here when you first got in the first few years?
Fear. I mean, you just look,
fear.
Honestly, you just wanted to do the right thing, and I joke when I say that, but you wanted to do the right thing, and for me, the right thing was to move very slowly. I didn't want to come in and act as if I owned the past in Detroit that they owned. I wanted to be respectful of the fact that I was a new guy, and that was really how I looked at things coming in. Is I wanted to have them accept me, but it was going to take time. And I got really lucky in that I walked in and I'm co-hosting a Lions pregame show, which is a ton of eyeballs on you. Lions end, Fox has hockey. All of a sudden I'm doing hockey pre and post game shows with John O'Gradick and Greg Steffen, who were amazing to me. So I have massive eyeballs on me as the Red Wings are on a Stanley Cup run. So I had to just not screw it up, because one of the hardest things to do when you come to a new town is to say, hey, watch me. I'm the new guy. I'm worth watching. Well, because I was on these huge high profile programs, which I didn't earn, they were just part of the gig. I didn't have to necessarily find a way to get the eyeballs on me. They were on me. I just, like I said, I had to not screw it up. So I was really, really fortunate that I was able to do that. And I'll throw one other thing out at you that I always really believe had a lot to do with anything good that's happened to me was going on DFN with Jamie and Greg.
Yeah.
They were friends of mine, and they would have me on once a week in the morning. And I think we had a lot of fun. They were a ball to be on with. And I think it really kind of allowed people to see that I was more than just a guy that read a prompter. You had a personality, sense of humor of a fifth grader, all that stuff. So I just think that was a big part of it. So there were a million things that went right for me. I just had to kind of not screw it up. But honestly, you ask what my feeling was. I knew how incredible the sports fans were here because it's one of those markets where people grew up here. They're rooting for the same teams their parents did, their grandparents did. Not all markets are like that. A lot of markets are a lot more transient where they don't have the deep roots. So I just always tried to be respectful of that and knew that it was just such an incredible sports market. And then to see the run that we went on after that, covering, a Michigan championship as soon as I got here in college football, and then the Wings winning it for the second year in a row, and then the Pistons go on a run, and the Wings are still on a run, and all the crazy things. Michigan State wins it. So just an opportunity to cover things that some people never get a chance to cover.
Yeah, and speaking of that, it's not just my dream job, and we know Dave's a Broncos slap, but it's many people's, including 15 in the chat right now, and I'll get to some of their comments in a second. But you're the voice of the Detroit Lions, man, my all-time favorite team. We know this is a city that loves its sports, but rarely in the history of the world, I think, even during this crazy pandemic, could you point to a city that loves a certain team so much that has literally won a playoff game in 62 plus years?
Yeah.
You become the voice of the Lions, obviously incredible moments, not the greatest of moments yet as far as a Super Bowl and that, which hopefully is going to come. But I know how much that means to you. I know you mentioned that broadcast booth. I've been in there many times. The intensity and passion and seriousness that you take that job, and I know how much it means to you. What has it been like being the voice? Just saying it gives me chills. The voice of the Detroit Lions.
It's Incredible is such a hack word, but that's what it is. I mean, it's again, I think, early in my career, when I first started being able to walk into a press box and, whatever I was, probably 18, 19 years old, and had started getting access to doing that, I used to watch the play-by-play guys walk in. And to me, it was like they were walking on air. And when I would watch them walk into the booth, it was like, oh my gosh, that's one day I pray I can do that. But I would watch them, and it just blew me away that the voice that I was listening to walked in, or the face that I saw calling the games walked in, and I was just the young guy that sat back there, and I was just like, that's really cool. And I just, I would just watch how they did their jobs and how they handled themselves, and being on the sidelines when I worked on Redskins broadcasts and seeing the way that some of the network guys were down there and watching them do their jobs. It was a big part of my dream to be able to do something like that. And, to have it happen and to be going into my 16th year is just.
That's great. It's crazy. 16 years. I remember when you first got the job. It feels like yesterday.
No, it's it has flown by. And, it's the passion that people have for it is what makes it a great job. And sometimes that passion manifests itself in anger because they're not happy with the way things are going. I get that. But I will always say this, and I've said it to anybody that's ever asked, the best part of the job is when fans are happy. The best part of the job is when you just feel the city lift up because of that team, and you go to the gas station and people are happy, or you go to the grocery store and people are happy and everybody wants to talk about it. And, we haven't even really during my time realized what true happiness is. So I can only imagine what it will be when we all finally get there. But, the moments, to me, beating San Diego to clinch a playoff spot, I mean, that day was just incredible. And
the whole city came.
Everything. And credit to Jim Schwartz, who made that day even more special, because he made the guys go back out on the field, which was, you can't prepare for a moment like that. It's the kind of decision that you just make because it feels right. And he did that. And I will always remember that as just being so smart and having such an understanding of the moment. And I think at the time he said something along the lines of, there'll come a time where we won't celebrate getting into the playoffs, but this isn't it. And I thought that was just so, it was just it showed a great understanding of what it meant to the organization, and more than that, to the fans. And to watch those guys walk around the floor of the stadium and on the field and shake hands with the fans was just, that's the kind of stuff you live for. And there's been others, but that's the kind of example of what I'll say are what makes this great. Now, again, there's a whole lot of great that we haven't been able to attain yet, which will be even better, but that just gives you a little taste.
And by the way, we got Dave, the Kingpin's got 5 special DTM one-on-one questions starring Dan Miller that we'll get to in a second here. He's very excited about these questions today, Dave.
I do have a question for Dan, though, because in addition to his Lions play-by-play, he also does other NFL games. So I want to know, how does that process go? Do they call you and tell you where you're going? Do you say, is it like a potluck? I'd like to do this. I'm available. How does that work?
Yeah, I did Westwood One for a couple of years, actually, which was really cool for me because I actually started at Mutual Radio, which became Westwood One. So going back to do games at Westwood One was like going home for me. And they cut way back on their schedule. So the past couple of years, I haven't done it. But to be able to do that, to be able to do an NFL playoff game, actually to do 2 of them, was, to do a playoff game nationally. Again, I won't sit here and act like that was no big deal. It was a big deal, and it meant a lot to me. And to get that opportunity and to be able to say that you did that and to work with the great people that they are there. But I have great friends over there at Westwood One, and as soon as they cut their schedule back, they called me and just said, look, We're not doing double headers on Sunday anymore, so we just don't have the inventory. We got to take care of our guys. So that's going to really, not leave any opportunities for you, which I got and I appreciated. But I loved every minute of the games, and the feedback that you got was just incredible. I remember what I did. It was a Chiefs Patriots playoff game, and
yeah, I remember texting you during that game.
Yeah, and
I was so excited
when I
you.
went on Twitter after the game and just saw the reaction that I had gotten from people and just how nice people were sending me texts and stuff like that. It was, again, I'll use the word, it was humbling, but it, look, I'll never take it for granted. I'll never feel like I'm entitled to anything. I think I'm grateful for all the opportunities that I get and opportunities like that, which dovetailed beautifully into what I do with the Lions. That was just great. And to be able to work with the people I worked with, from Tony Baselli to Trent Green to, just the different guys that were in that booth, James Lofton, to be able to sit and work with those guys is pretty cool too. So much history with those guys and so much NFL, blood in them.
Brad on the chat said, I'll never forget when on one Christmas Eve I turned on 97.1 and Dan Miller was doing the national game on Westwood One. Such a cool moment. I remember hearing that, Dan. I texted you.
Yeah.
Like I was like a kid again, because you've always been so good to me, and it's helped start my career. And to see you living out this dream, that was awesome. That
was Cowboys Jets, and I did that game with Brady Quinn, who was just a terrific guy. We had a blast, and then I think the Lions played that Monday night. So it worked out perfectly. But yeah, those are it's fun. It's a different animal, because when you're doing the Lions, you're doing a Lions broadcast, and normally whatever happens, if something good happens, it's what did the Lions do? If something bad happens, it's what did the Lions not do? But when you're doing a national broadcast, it's a very different thing. I remember when I got the Lions job, I had been doing games on Fox the previous 5 years, and I got an email from somebody who said, look, I don't remember if he said he was happy I got the job or whatever, but he said, I hope that you're a little more passionate, because you sound like a New Yorker when you do games for Fox. And I'm like, what? Kind of a different broadcast. You need to play it right down the middle. When you're doing games for the Lions, you can let your passion kind of go to one side. But it is a different animal when you're doing, a national game versus, doing a game for one team, which I obviously do now.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's talk about that team, which is, I got my Barry jersey in the background. I got a special thing later to show you from Kerryon Johnson. But you look at the draft this year, Dan. First, I want to get your thoughts on that in a second. But do you think we're playing NFL football? I know the NFL is above everything, and even if they shouldn't try, they might. Do you think we're going to play the NFL this year?
I think we'll get a good idea by what happens with baseball and by what happens with the NBA and the NHL as they try to come back. I mean, as we sit here right now, look, everybody's planning on coming back. Everybody's going through their protocols and trying to get everything in place. So if you ask me right now, I'd say, yeah, they're going to play. Do I think there'll be fans in the stands? Limited at best, probably not, but I don't know. Look, we don't know what's happening with this virus from week to week, much less 3 months from now.
Day to day.
Yeah, day to day. So I believe they will play. But again, the NFL has been very fortuitous in the way that this thing has happened. And I only mean in terms of timing, because there's been nothing fortuitous about this virus and the loss of jobs and money and lives and all the horrible things that have come with it. But just from an NFL perspective, because they were so far away from having to make any critical decisions other than, let's go ahead with free agency, let's go ahead with a draft, which turned out to be the right decisions, that they've been able to kind of sit back, not have to rush anything, get all the information they can, watch how the other sports do their thing, and kind of learn from that. Much more difficult for the NBA or the NHL, which were sitting there about to go to the postseason, or much more difficult for baseball, which was about to go to the regular season. So the timing for the NFL has allowed them to sit back and try to put things in place properly. And we'll see if it happens. And I believe they will play. What happens with some of these other sports, though, Dan, probably will dictate whether they do or whether they start on time or a number of those things.
I think you're absolutely right about that. And obviously I hope they do play. I know Dave, the big Broncos guy. We have our big Lions Broncos bet every year. But if they do, Dan, and let's hope they do, we know there's a lot on the line. I mean, there's a lot on the line every year. But it's year 5 of Bob Quinn. It's year 3 of Matt Patricia. I've been supportive of them. I've lost a little faith, but I think they won the draft. I mean, we don't know how drafts turn out for a couple of years sometimes, 2-3 years. But you look at the first three rounds, Dan. You did trade down when you maybe could have, but Jeffrey Okudah, DeAndre Swift, a lot later than people thought he was going to go, and Romeo Okwara, who's been amazing, his brother Julian from Notre Dame. You might have 3 day 1 stars in the first 3 rounds. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? And when you look at this draft, does it make you feel good about the possibility the Lions could be one of those first to worst teams that happens every year in the NFL?
Well, yeah, NFL is built around comebacks. And I think, just simply getting number 9 back there gives you the ability to turn your season around based on what happened last year. But look, I mean, you want those guys to be starters, but you want them to be starters because they earned it. You don't want them to be starters because they were your first or second or third round picks. And you can make the case they got the best cornerback in the draft today. You can make the case they got the best running back. A lot of people believe in the draft today. So, I mean, right off the top, those 2 picks on paper look great. But we all know that it's not played on paper. These guys have to go out there and play. And you'd like to think that Okwara can come in and give them something off the edge, even if he's raw and learning what it takes to be in the NFL, that he can come in there and play and give them a boost where they desperately need it, which is getting after the passer. And that the guys that they had after that, guards competing for a starting job, defensive tackle who's a run stopper, whatever the case, you hope that these guys, Cephas can come in and learn under, 3 terrific receivers in front of him and become a contributor. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think we've all been around long enough to understand that drafts and trying to break them down the day after, look, it's what we do because it's what we have to do. But It's also really crazy to try to do. We'll see down the line how this thing works out. But, I think you can look at this team and you can understand where they have to get better and what it's going to take for them to have a significant turnaround. Stafford has to be right on offense. That offense looked really good last year. Now you're adding DeAndre Swift, figure out the offensive line. And then defensively, they have to be significantly better. And that, to me, starts with finding some way to make opposing quarterbacks uncomfortable, which they just didn't do enough last year.
Dan, I think I'm in the minority when it comes to this. And obviously you work much closer with him than I do. But I, go down and park as much as I can and have been in some media sessions, even smaller ones than usual with Coach Patricia. I think he's got the ability to be a very good coach. I know that it's about winning and losing in the NFL. And that if Matt Patricia's teams had won the first 2 years, there would be all this, crazy talk about getting rid of him. He's not going to work out. Do you think he's misunderstood? I mean, obviously winning and losing is what it's all about for some, but do you think that his lineage, his experience, his football smarts, is he understood by some of this fan base?
I think he made a big change from year 1 to year 2. I think he realized there were some things he needed to change, and I give him a lot of credit for that because there's some guys that would just say, this is the way I do it. I'm not changing anything. And I think he understood that there were some changes that he had to make in terms of dealing with everything that was going on around him. And I think he did that. So I give him credit there. Look, I'm the voice of the team, Dan. If I sit here and tell you I think he's a great coach, everybody's going to say you're saying that because he's the voice, because I'm the voice of the team. Here's what he needs to do. He needs to win. Do I think he can win? Absolutely. Do I think he knows the game? Absolutely. Do I think he can teach the game? Absolutely. But it comes down to winning, and that's what he's got to do. And again, what I say doesn't really matter. It's what he does, and it's what the results say. That's what matters. So, look, I'm excited about what I think this team can do. And I know that around the country, that's probably not a view that's shared by a lot of people, but I do think there was some underperforming last year on defense, and I do think that defense can get better quickly. And I do think offensively, they were really good last year when Stafford was in there. And I think potentially adding Swift, they can get better, and adding a TJ Hawkinson whose head isn't spinning. Knows what's going on in this league after getting through a rookie season, which is always tough for these guys. There's a lot of reason to be, excited about that as well. So look, it's about winning, and it's not about what I think. It's about the bottom line. It is a bottom line business, and that's what they're going for this year. And I think we all know, based on what management has told them, that the bottom line is going to dictate their future.
Let's hope that future is for all these, hard pressed and bad luck Lions fans. You calling a playoff win or two, or let's stop at two. Let's not get crazy here. But calling a playoff win or two would be quite amazing.
Yeah, it would. I mean, look, and it would be like letting the air out of a balloon for this entire area of people that
60+ year balloon.
Yeah, that just need to feel that, to see a playoff game at Ford Field, whatever it is. I mean, look, we all know where we want them to go, and they know where they want to go, and they know where they belong, and what ultimately dictates success. Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia know what being successful in this league is, and it's not winning 9 games. It's winning X number of games, getting in the playoffs, and then not losing in the playoffs. They understand that because they've done it, and that's what they're trying to do, and that's, in the end, what they're going to be judged on.
So I don't want to have to tell how old I am. I came up with this idea that I celebrated my birthday yesterday, and it's the 30th anniversary of my bar mitzvah, and that was the last time the Lions won a playoff game. So it's time. You get that? It's secret math.
I do. I did some math there. I think I have a pretty good idea what age that leaves you.
You follow that nonsense?
Tighten the plug here.
I was at that playoff win. By the way, Jim Astorino says, I love listening to Dan Miller on the radio. He is spectacular. That's the way everyone feels about your calls, Dan. Dave is ready. Dave is very, very excited for this Dan Leach one-on-one starring Dan Miller. Are you ready, Dan? This is going to be –
I'm not sure, but I'll say yes.
Oh, we would never hang you out to dry. You're my mentor. Come on. But Dave is ready. We have this brand new software, which I love. I'm still getting used to it, but I think I'm pretty good here. All right, this is a Dan Leach one-on-one starring Dan Miller. Dave Rieger, question number 1.
All right, Dan, I hope you're familiar with the movie The Shining by Stephen King. So 40 years ago this week.
He didn't direct the movie.
No, he didn't direct. Stanley Kubrick directed the movie, but the book, obviously, that it was based off. 40 years ago this week, Stephen King's The Shining was released, okay? So if you had to go with your family to either an old stadium still around or gone, what stadium would cause you to go crazy like Jack Nicholson's character did in the movie?
Crazy in a bad way?
Crazy in a bad way, crazy in a good way. Just what old stadium, either still around or gone, would cause you to just lose it?
I think I would love to have seen, and I didn't, obviously, a football game in Tiger Stadium. I'll be honest with you, when I first got here and walked out on that field and had never been there before, I got chills. I mean, I really did. Just knowing that Ruth and DiMaggio and the best ever K-Line had run that field, standing on it, I felt the ghosts. So I would love to have seen a game there. I mean, look, I grew up going to Redskins games with season tickets to the Redskins, 56,000 people making RFK Stadium bounce up and down like that. So, I mean, I've seen some things. And we got a great stadium here when it rocks. So, but I think probably I'm trying to think of if there's another one.
Now, that's a great answer.
Now realize you're going to have to stay there. You're going to have to live there for a little bit.
Oh, I got to live there?
Yeah, because that was The Shining. So you have to live there.
If I got to go to an old,
you got to look
to a new one and live there.
You got to watch over. You got to watch over stuff.
Let's see. Send me if it's got to be an old one. Send me down to the old Texas Stadium in Irving, because I tell you what, the first time I saw those luxury boxes, now they're outdated now, but the first time that I saw those, it was like an apartment. It was the coolest thing that I had seen, and this is way back when, and long before Jerry World. But I'll take care of that. I'll run the I'll spend the winter there.
Cool.
I like all your answers. By the way, before I give my answer, quick story. You mentioned Tiger Stadium seeing football there. Of course, I never got to see it. They stopped playing in 74, 75. My dad was 10 in 57. And they used to, my grandpa Saul, the legendary Saul M. Leach. used to have season tickets. So my dad's 10. It's the Browns-Lions championship game. And my dad wants to go. And my grandma says, Harold, it's a school night. There'll be many more chances for you to see the Lions win a title. Well, that was 63 years ago. And we at least got to go to the game in Dallas. The Jinx. There it is.
So the legendary, your legendary grandfather is the Jinx of the Lions, not Bobby Lane.
I guess
is that what you're saying?
It's the Jinx. For me, and I know this might, I mean, I know I'd have to take care of it. It'd be weird to be there. But Dan and Dave, I don't care. It's the Silverdome. The Silverdome is my favorite building. You've got a dome. You've got suites. You got the main event restaurant. I would do the Silverdome because when I drive by there, Dan, it just kills me to see that building in it kills me.
I loved going to games there. The sight lines for the press box were great. And Dan knows this a little bit. I'm an iced tea addict. And they had the best iced tea at the Silverdome in the press box. And I used to, when I woke up on Sunday morning and I would go to a game, I would start thinking about that iced tea. And literally by the beginning of the fourth quarter, I was shaking so hard because I had drank so much of it and was so I was like you, Leach, maybe a little less, but I was so caffeined up by the fourth quarter. That's what I always remember about the Silverdome is those sight lines and then the iced tea that I would drink there and just, obviously some of the games as well. But it was a cool place. And I know people, it was this, it was that, but you can find charm if you look hard enough anywhere.
It was the best. Just those Sundays, my grandpa and dad go to the phones to call their bookies, the chicken fingers. And by the way, the other one I thought it was Skydome, Rogers Center, because there's a hotel there, so I can just take care of that.
Yeah,
all right, Dave, question 2.
I heard about the hotel, but I was never there.
Question 2.
Yes,
so
I was there.
Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, I went there the year after it opened. That was when they still allowed you to keep the window curtains open. Yeah. Well, that became an issue.
Yeah.
Things happened. All right, go ahead,
I was there also. Question 2. So today ESPN announced they're going to have a 9-episode series about Tom Brady called The Man in the Arena. And it's going to air next year in 2021, obviously following the success of The Last Dance of Michael Jordan. So my question, Dan, is what Detroit athlete deserves their own multi-episode series?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, Detroit. We were talking about this. We were kind of talking about, what would be compelling, because the thing about Jordan was it pulled in the nation. So you'd have to have something that was compelling enough to really pull in the country. And I think, I'll tell you what, when the Lions finally win it, that'll be your documentary.
100%.
To go through all of the disappointment and the tough times and to finally get there. I mean, you could do more than 9, and just the fans and what they endured and the way that they hung in there. I mean, that's your story. If I can project ahead to when they finally win it, we should probably copyright that so we can get the rights to that thing.
You might want to start recording now. Just start recording now, all the stuff.
First thing that came to mind for me would be Steve Yzerman, because youngest captain, all those years as the captain, decades drought for the Stanley Cup, and they can maybe kind of weave in. We've already seen the Russian 5, but weave in the whole history. So the first one I thought about was Stevie Y. Dan, I think you're totally right about the Lions. If it's Stafford, if it's whoever, the quarterback, the team, that team is going to be as special as any team has ever been in this city. Ever.
Yeah, and it would be your classic, rise to glory from disappointment.
Dave, question 3.
Question 3. I don't know if you've heard this, Dan, but NASA has apparently found a parallel universe where time flows backwards. Okay, in this parallel universe, how are the 4 Detroit teams doing in the parallel universe, Dan?
Where time flows backwards? Well,
yeah.
If we get back to the 1930s when the Tigers and Wings and Lions were all winning a championship, that would be pretty cool for time to flow backwards. Look, if you could flow backwards and understand what your mistakes were, then you could sit there and just take care of them. Look, in the early 90s, I drove past a sign every night on my way home from my little talk radio show that was lit up that said AOL when the stock was about $6 a share. If I'd have read the sign and put $1,000 in that stock before it split 7 times or whatever it
Yep.
did, I could be doing a lot of things. So if time flows backwards, that's my time to flow backwards. But that would look, hindsight is a wonderful thing. And if you could go back and correct your mistakes, all of them, man, wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't Sheed stay on Robert Ory? And
yes, don't leave him open.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe the officials would call 6 men on the ice on the Penguins, and things might be a little bit different. I mean, you could change some things.
Maybe you'd be working at ESPN right now.
No,
I'm very happy where I am.
We need you here.
Yeah, I'm very happy.
Before we get to the next question, the D-line wants me to ask you what your golf handicap is. We hear you have a very good game. I've golfed with you. My guess is 2.5.
Oh, God, you're crazy. I'm low teens.
2.5.
No. I'm low teens. I am Mr. Explosion. I was playing the other day, and it was, my buddy says, well, you got a nice round going. And then I went double bogey to finish. And there goes the nice round. That's
the game.
Yeah. No, I'm
supposed to play.
If I can break, 88, I'm a happy guy.
We got to head out soon. I'm supposed to play, if it doesn't rain tomorrow, in your stomping yard, Northville Hills. That's your backyard, right?
Yep. Bring it. Let's go.
We're doing it.
That's where you and I played, and I had to listen to you and Rieger yell at each other the whole time. The other Rieger.
It's the greatest thing ever.
I've lived that nightmare. I'm sorry, Dan.
Yes, Dave, that was the first ever 97 won the ticket invitational at DTF Squatch Jamboree. Dan was a part of it. It was the best thing ever.
I've lived that nightmare too many times.
For me, by the way, the parallel universe, the Lions would be the Patriots, the Red Wings would still be the Red Wings, the Tigers would be the 27 Yankees, and the Detroit Pistons, like Dan said, would have left Big Shot Bob open. No Phantom Foul. They'd have 5 championships. So that's my backwards parallel universe.
And Bird would have stolen the ball.
Yeah,
right?
Bird would not have stolen the ball. Why am I forgetting his name right?
They don't call the Phantom Foul.
No Phantom Foul.
That's right.
And Jim Joyce would have had LASIK. So it would have been safe. It would have been out. All right, Dave, question 4.
So, being that you're an NFL play-by-play legend, Dan, give me your all-time dead or alive radio or TV NFL announce team.
Oh my God! Well, Summerall and Madden. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. I mean, they were doing a Super Bowl. They were replaying the other day, and I grew up listening to Summerall. I mean, I'll say this: for me, it would be Summerall and Madden, but I will also say for anybody that was a budding sports fan in the 70s, when that Monday night crew with Meredith, Gifford, and Cosell was on, oh my God, it was just like an event. I mean, I'd be on the phone with my buddies when the open would come on, because it was just like, you just waited for it. It was such a big deal. So, that announced crew is forever etched in my mind. But I just love Summerall so much. He just was so unique, so talented. And he and Madden, and he and Brookshire too. I mean, they were, as I said, growing up in DC, that 4:00 Redskins Cowboys game was Summerall and Brookshire. I mean, you knew you were someplace big. And when they called the game, it meant a lot. And I just, so those would probably be the ones for me.
It's a great answer. I would do some combination. You mentioned Cosell. I've always been a huge Al Michaels guy, one of my favorite broadcasters. So Al Michaels, Cosell, Summerall, Madden, some kind of combination. Maybe a 3 or 4 man booth. They used to, they had a 3-man booth for Monday Night Football for a long time, right?
How'd that work out?
Not very well.
It worked out really good in the 70s, but it's so hard because you've got to, and look, it's oftentimes not the fault of the guys that are in there. It's a chemistry thing. It's like sometimes it just doesn't work. And 3 is hard. 3 is hard trying to find enough room for everybody, and to deal with the egos and just to make it flow. It's not easy.
Very quick question before we get to today's final question. This is for the D-line. They want to know, what are the chances Dan Orlovsky gets the Monday Night Football gig, and how happy would you be for him?
Yeah, believe me, I'd be thrilled for Dan. I'm his biggest fan. I talked to him, and I've watched him grow in the business, and I'm so proud of him. And I don't know what ESPN's thinking. I have no idea what they're going to go for. Is it going to be 2? Is it going to be 3? You're trying to go with somebody that has a lot of experience versus somebody that doesn't. I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing that hurts Dan is he doesn't have a ton of game experience, but he's so good and so insightful and so quick that I think, I know they have to be considering him. We'll have to wait and see how it works out. I would be thrilled for him if it happened because I know how hard he's worked and what a meteoric rise. I mean, from making his own little videos on Twitter to everybody saying this guy's pretty good to, landing there and now just taking off. And regardless of what happens, if he doesn't get the gig, his career's going in the right direction. If he doesn't get the gig now, believe me, he'll have it at some point. But he's a real talent.
Irwin says, by the way, Dick and Brulosa, those are 2 good ones too. All right, Dave, let's hit it out of the park as we always do. Brulosa comes over to my house from time to time. There's many Leatherbound books. Dave, out of the park with question time.
This last question, your answer is really going to maybe make a difference of a little wager Dan and I might have coming up. And that is Sunday afternoon. Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning taking on Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady for charity in a golf match. Who you got?
I'm a Tiger guy. I'm forever a Tiger guy.
So is this slap. So is that. So is
there we
that.
go. There we go.
I don't dislike Mickelson at all, but I'm a Tiger guy. He's I have just such an incredible respect for what he's done, and I've loved watching his career, and I love golf. So if that's my choice, it starts with Tiger and it ends with Tiger.
All right, hey, listen, I'm a Tiger guy too, but I want the plus 170. I'm taking Phil. All right, Dave, great job. Dan, do you have a few more minutes for us? I mean, I can talk to you forever, but I really appreciate you coming on. Well, guess what?
Might surprise you that I don't have much going on these days at home.
Yeah, but you're a family man. You're incredible. Exactly. You're a great anchor.
I'll anchor here in a little bit, but always time to spend with you guys.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, there's a few more things I want to do, but I mentioned I've got a surprise for you. I've got many surprises, but I wanna take care of one of them right now, and I call him the Gak Attack. This is the real version of a Gak Attack. The great Greg Cantor joins the show. Now, before we get into
he had a previous mention on the show. We mentioned him earlier.
Really?
He did. He had a previous mention. And he told me earlier, Dan, he's like, if you ever get really desperate, bring me on the show. I would never be desperate to bring Greg Cantor. But let me explain the story, then I want to give you guys a chance to make fun of me. I was Greg's first intern. You had been there for a couple years, but I was part of the first Greg Cantor International Intern class, which included me, Ryan Romani, and I believe Heather Zara. I think we all did pretty nicely for ourselves.
You guys have done well.
Without you two, I'm nothing. I have to let you explain or talk about what it was like having Dan Leach as an intern.
Cantor's the intern king. Take it away.
A tornado going through just a small office in Southfield. One of a kind. I'll take credit. I saw something in the young man. And then a lot of people said, what did you see in him? No. Lots of personality, as everyone knows. But the passion was great. Like that you could never deny. And that's what we always look for in interns or people who are going to work in the business, is the passion for sports, the passion for your teams, the passion for everything. And you are not short on that. Yeah. I mean, and let me say this too, because you've said a lot of nice things about me, Dan, but in all sincerity, and Greg and I have been blamed for allowing you into the business, but above all, and Greg just nailed it with the things he said, more than anything else, you could see that you were a good guy. You could see that you had a good heart and that you wanted to do things the right way. And you've been very public about the things that you've been through. And I commend you for that and your strength in dealing with that. But more than anything else, from day one, you were a good guy with a good heart. And that's the kind of people that you want to surround yourself with. Maybe not quite as loud as you, but those are the kind of people that you want to surround yourself with. And I say that with all sincerity. It's, the craziness is one thing, but
you are, when it comes to this, you're a good guy.
And that's why we brought you back for the second time.
Who gets the answer
twice?
I will say this, and there's so many amazing moments. You guys were so good to me and taught me so many things, and would send me on different assignments. It was the best. But there's two things I remember that I really loved. One was Greg, let me say that for a second. Dan, if you remember, you could show the highlights of Lions Vikings. I think it was Monday Night Football, and we reenacted that in the Fox 2 Sports office.
Right.
Do you remember?
I love that. The Monday Night Football.
Yeah, but then I was there the day Dale Earnhardt sadly passed away, which was crazy, and I learned how newsrooms have to operate. But I was also there the night Barry Sanders retired. And Greg, in his infinite wisdom, if you remember, Dan, we still have this tape somewhere, Greg. He allowed me to work with. I don't remember. I feel bad. I don't remember the editor, but he was a really nice guy. He let me work with him, and I spent like the entire night. I think I stopped logging for a minute, but I put together that Barry Sanders highlight video.
Tears for Fears.
Tears for Fears. Yep, Tears for Fears. Good night song. And Dan, when you guys played that on the air, after that, I started crying because just you guys giving me a task. Barry was my all-time favorite athlete, but to trust this crazy, you call me Crazy Dan for that till now.
Yeah.
To trust me with that meant everything to me. And my parents saw it and my friends saw it. And I literally was crying that night. I really was.
Well, one of the reasons why I look to you is that, I had just gotten here in February of 99. Couldn't wait to cover Barry Sanders. Huge fan. Oh, I'm going to Detroit. I get to cover Barry Sanders. And, July comes and boom, it's done. And so, I knew what I didn't know when it came to, Detroit sports. And I knew by that point, you knew your stuff. So to get together with you and say, all right, tell me what, which highlights am I, the greatest run of all time, of course, is the one against the Cowboys where, that's the best of all time. And so I knew that one, but some of the other ones, that you could recall that I knew, boom, that's what we need to put in there.
Do you know how long ago it was? If you guys remember, obviously you guys remember, there's that second story at Fox 2, the studio. I had to go up there to get the beta tapes. I had to go up there and get tapes on beta and put them in the editing bay with that guy, and he edited it for me. That's how long ago it was. It's just crazy.
Yeah, no, but that's the business, man. You got to be ready when something like that happens. Who can be ready for something like that? But you got to react.
And Dan, you brought this up earlier before Greg came out, and I'm going to give Greg some love because he deserves it too. You talked about, having you and Woody and Jen for, being there for 23 years, the team you guys have in the station supporting sports. Greg has been there that time as well. And I got to tell you, Greg, there's a reason that Dan is obviously incredible, as a person, as an anchor. But you really help add to that. And I know that you guys have a very special relationship that has been going on for 20 plus years.
Well, it's 20 plus because we work together, as we said, in DC as well. But look, it's when you have somebody that has creativity, passion, and can put together things that make you different from other people, that's when you're doing it right. And that's what Greg brought to us, was the ability to have somebody who embodied those things. Because look, anybody can put a sportscast together, but when you can do it a little bit different and you have the talent to do things that are memorable and put together things that have your own personal touch on them, that's what makes you stand out in this business. And frankly, when he stands out, I stand out. So that's a good thing. And that's what Greg brings to the business. He's just, look, he's been by my side for more than 20 years now. And I'm lucky to have him. And when I work, he works. So I know I'm in good hands.
Yep.
Yeah,
and when I was going to say, when the Capitals won, we all lifted you up. I got a hat for you, and we all live and die with the Redskins. But go ahead, Greg.
Yeah. No, that night was difficult because as I was attempting to edit the highlights, the tears were going down my face, and it was like 5 minutes to showtime, and I'm trying to real quickly get the stuff on there, and I'm like, but poor Dan had to live through year after year of just misery, like the worst half hour in the history of highlights, when I think the Caps lost a Game 7 in overtime, and the Wizards lost a Game 5 buzzer beater within like 15 minutes of each other, and I have to put them both on the show. And it's just, so he's put up with a lot throughout the years, but I appreciate him, obviously, or I wouldn't be here.
It's been amazing. That is for sure. All right, a couple quick things before we go. I want to get some rapid fire in with you, Dapper Dan. We call it Dancing with Dapper Dan. Greg, stick around. We got some home surprises in a second. All right, Dan, all-time favorite athlete.
Sugar Ray Leonard.
Oh, great answer. If you could go
growing up in DC, being 13 in 1976, I wasn't alone.
How about that Sugar Ray, Tommy? How about the Motor City Cobra versus Sugar Ray?
September 16th, 1981. Hang on, there you go.
Oh, here we go. There it is. That's sick. I miss boxing in that era so much.
It's and you know what? I
miss it so much.
We had a great time talking with Tommy Hearns, who came in. So much respect for him, as I know Ray does as well. We had Tommy in about 6-7 months ago, whatever it was, and we spent the night with him, and it was awesome. So awesome. He came in to talk about that second fight with Ray, which he won, and we all know that Tommy won that fight. But
he 100% won that fight.
Yeah, he knows it.
I might have been 6, but I knew he won it.
Everybody knows it.
All right, one event, Dan, that you weren't able to go to that you'd want to go see live, sporting event.
I've never been to the Masters. That would probably be up there. But to be honest with you, I love watching it on TV where you can see every hole. I'd probably love to just go play Augusta. But that's probably the one that I haven't been to that I would love to go, just because it's so much a part of my passion, just that event in particular.
All right, they're playing, as we know, during the time of no sports, except for horse racing, which I love. They're playing all these classic games, whether it's a classic Tigers game or national stuff, Kobe's last game. Is there a game that you've seen or that you've thought about throughout your life, whether when you're younger or whatever, that if you could go to any one of those classic games, that's the one you pick?
Wow.
Carte blanche.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's one that stands out, because there's so many, incredible moments that defined, sports, and, Joe Namath with a guaranteed victory. Maybe we didn't even have any idea how big that was at the time. Some of those NBA finals that were in my wheelhouse during the 80s, which were just so incredible all the way through from, Pistons on down, were just incredible. Probably some NCAA championship games, growing up, probably, the one that one of them that sticks out most in my mind is the 82 championship game between North Carolina and Georgetown.
Yes.
I was such a DC guy and a huge Georgetown fan at the time, and just the heartbreak of Jordan hitting that shot, but now understanding in the great scope of things, how that, plays into it, that would probably be one. That would probably be one that I would say. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like when you watch them, you get such an amazing respect for them. I don't know if I ever thought, God, I wish I was there. I wish I had to be there,
Well, the one that came right to mind when I thought about this was, I was 10. My dad let me stay up late to watch it, like way past my bedtime. The 89 NCAA championship game with Michigan at Seton Hall.
Yeah.
When Ramil hit the 2 free throws. I felt like I was there because I was up past my bedtime. That's the one that first came to mind. Greg, I'm guessing you got
my car got broken into that night. So I remember.
No, it did. No way.
Yeah, it did.
Really?
I was in Georgetown in DC, and I watched the game in a bar, and I came out, and my window was smashed. My briefcase was gone. And so that's why I will always remember that night.
Oh, man.
I hope they found that crook.
I remember that one because I won my dad's office pool on a fluke because the game went to overtime, because I didn't have any of the guys, but the score got high enough in overtime, and I got a note in the morning that said, "You won." That was great.
Go ahead. Sure. Go ahead, Greg.
I would say mine, and I was going to ask because I can't remember whether Dan was there or not, the Redskins-Cowboys NFC Championship game. Were you at that one? Yeah, that was the one that I always thought of.
I know, because I was there.
Atmosphere to
yeah, no, that was pretty incredible. I remember that game because we had started early in the morning, if you know what I'm saying. I wasn't working. I was having fun. And I remember I went where I would normally go and come back with 2 beers, and I was with my brother-in-law, and I came back and I had 2 hot chocolates, and he looked at me and he goes, "Thank God that's not beer." He said he'd never been happier in his life to see somebody carrying 2 hot chocolates instead of 2 beers. But it was, that was one of those days where just that whole stadium was just moving from side to side. You could feel it. It did that. That's
great. All right, couple more here for you. Your all-time favorite band / artist, whoever that
Counting
is.
Crows.
Did I ever tell you I hung out with Adam Duritz for a night in Ann Arbor?
There you go.
Duritz is great. Duritz, He's a huge sports guy. He thought I knew way too much because, I've always been into music. I actually got a credential for that show. He was a little concerned that I knew a little too much about him. But I'm like, no, I'm just a fan. I'm just covering for my school. But he's a big Cal fan.
Oh, huge
big Golden State Warriors fan.
You see him sitting next to the Warriors bench a lot during their big games.
Yeah. Round Here is one of the great songs that's ever been put together.
They got a lot of great songs.
All right. And I've seen the Crows. I think I've seen them 5 times live. They're amazing. If you could interview anybody right now and they would say yes to the interview and they wouldn't give you BS answers, they would answer every question you had. It could be sports or non-sports. Who would that person be? Anybody.
Sports or non-sports? Wow.
Whoever you want. And they'll answer whatever questions. They won't give you BS, crap answers.
I mean, so many. So many come to mind, but I'm trying to think of the one that is truly special that that you wanted to get answers from, because there's so many that do get interviewed. So I'm trying to think of who doesn't give interviews, who doesn't talk. So that's kind of where my mind is right now. What would you guys throw out? Because I don't want somebody who talks. I don't want somebody who's given us answers before. That would be, that.
Do they have to be alive?
You know what? They can be someone that's not alive. That's fine.
I always thought of Ali.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I know he just did they had a big series out of it. I would have probably want to interview Michael Jordan. I mean, there's so much there to I know that we learned a lot about him, but let's pretend there was no Last Dance. I would definitely have wanted to be Jordan.
What would you ask him though that hasn't been covered at this point?
Well, because you're right with the Last Dance. It's not as big of a deal anymore. But before that, that's why the
feels like everything has been covered at this point.
Yeah, now it's out there.
Yeah, just
100% Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs is a good one.
I know, incredible vision and just brilliant, and even when things weren't going well, stuck with his vision and made it all work. I mean, that's an incredible one.
And then someone that's living, because I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan, would be Eddie Vedder, and someone that's not living would be JFK. I mean, I just am fascinated by JFK. I think, and I want to find out about the mistresses and all the other stuff that was going on, but just to pick his brain. But I think to talk to Eddie Vedder, who is one of my heroes.
I think if we were going with not living, I would throw somebody like Elvis out there, who I'm fascinated by. When you're 20 years old and you've got the entire world in the palm of your hand, how do you deal with that? And dealing with his demons and everything that haunted him throughout his life, and finally, was part of why he died. I'm fascinated by him, his life, what that must have been like to deal with that. I'm a huge Elvis fan. I've watched every biography and read some of them and things like that. And he's fascinating to me just because of what he did and the way that he kind of, blew up in that way that we really hadn't seen many people blow up like that ever before. I mean, Sinatra had been big before that, but just it was different with him.
Greg, you got one?
You know what? Because of my obsession,
he's gonna say Alex Ovechkin.
Lorne Michaels.
That's a great,
fascinating guy because Saturday Night Live is my favorite show of all time. I've probably watched every episode that they've ever put out there, and just to be around so much talent and to be buddies with McCartney and Paul Simon and all the people he's buddies with and everything he's been through, seeing everyone go in and out of those doors is, I thought, really fascinating.
No, and all those stories, Belushi and what happened behind the scenes,
all those after parties.
All right, we're going to get to our house owners in 1 second. But Dan, I wanted to, if I can, bring you through one more legendary clip of yours, because I just wanted to know what you were thinking. This was a little earlier on in your Lions play-by-play career, but what it was like when you called this moment. Let's take a listen first.
It allowed Matthew Stafford to come back in. This is it. This is the game. Last play of the game. Takes the snap. Goes. Throws. End zone. Touchdown. Detroit Lions out. I love you, man. What a finish. And the Lions are an extra point away from the win. Stafford still hurt.
And Dan, that went national. That was everywhere.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that? Because you and Brad Sandler knew he was hurt, and that was just, to see him do that early in his career, and about the whole Lions history. What was that like for him?
Well, I just remember Cleveland calling the timeout, and when we saw Stafford come back out on the field, it was just, I think it was Brandy who said, "Is he coming back in?" And it was just, we couldn't believe it after seeing him go off like that. But truthfully, we didn't know how bad it was either. We didn't have the mic'd up Stafford to understand just how much pain he was in. We knew he was hurt. And we knew that it looked like he wasn't going to play. And then all of a sudden he did. And it was, it was a young Stafford. It was magic. It was everything that you would hoped a young player like that would be. And to have that moment was just, it felt like the progression for him of being that number one pick, that he would be able to go out there and do something like that. But I got to be honest with you, I think it was later that we got even more respect because we understood just how severe the pain was and what he was dealing with in that moment. Okay, he's hurt, he's out, Culpepper's coming in, then boom, 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 then he's back in. Okay, yeah, it was crazy, and yeah, it was final, untimed play of the game for the touchdown and the win. But I think it was later when NFL Films gave us that incredibly compelling video and audio that you really realized what it was all about.
And Dan, you're always very fair about this. You are the voice of the line, so I would never put you in a weird position. But I've always been a huge Matthew Stafford guy, not just obviously what he does for the community, the kind of person he is, what he's been through with his wife, all that. I used to wait tables and wait on Matthew Stafford at J. Alexander's. And I told him, I used to always tell him, "Matt, I'll be in the locker room with you someday." And he's right, like, "Who's this stupid kid?" And then the first time I went in the locker room, I said, "Matt, remember I told you I'd be in there?" But just an incredible quarterback. And we understand he has no playoff wins. But do you think that, and we know that not the whole fan base is like this, but do you think that people are going to understand that they were completely wrong about the way they treated Stafford in some ways?
I think it goes back to what we said earlier about Patricia and Quinn. You have to win. And sure. I think, look, it's not all on Matthew. We've all been through what quarterback wins mean, but look, he's got every single thing on his resume, but winning and winning in January. And that's ultimately what it's going to take. And frankly, that's part of being great in this league is getting those defining wins in January. Now, again, it's not all him. They got to do a better job of building around him, building an offense that is complete and not just relying on him, and building a defense that can stand up and make plays and be terrific defense like they, had in 2014 when they lost to Dallas. They just didn't have the offense that year because, they were cycling through Lombardi at that point, and it didn't work out. The timing hasn't been there. If you took one of those big offensive teams, the Lions, and that defense they had in 2014, you had something. But look, everybody knows I'm a big Matthew Stafford fan. I think he's tremendously talented. I think he is more than capable of winning big games and winning in January. I do think, bigger conversation for a different time, that much of what hasn't gone right has been more a statement of what's gone on around him than with him. It's not to say he doesn't deserve some of the blame, because he does, but I think they've in the long run not done as good a job of building around him since he arrived that they should have. And when they finally do get to the point where he's winning those games, you will not only say he's terrific, but you'll say they put a better team around him.
No, 100% right. I just think people, be careful what you wish for sometimes. That's all I say. But hopefully we'll be seeing the fruits of that labor, the right people around him, because I think he's good enough to win. I know you've talked about that in the past. And
I just
NFL this year.
I want to see him win because of everything that he's put into this.
Yes.
I want to see him win because of everything. And I understand he's made a lot of money and been paid and all that stuff, but I know what he's put into this, and I know what he has endured. And I just want to see that day. I'll just leave it at that. I want to see that day when he finally gets to enjoy it, and I want to see that day when the fans all get to enjoy it with him.
Me as well. All right. Well, as we always do at the end of the show, I can't think it's so good to have an actual GAC attack. But Dan, you're the greatest. We always share something because we're all working at home remotely and trying to stay safe here and keep the curve flat and keep everyone safe. We always share an interesting, exciting house item. Why don't we start with the Kingpin? The Kingpin. Dave Rieger, what do you got up there? Dave likes to show a lot of Broncos swag, guys. It's very annoying.
I will say this has a little bit of a backstory with the Denver Broncos. And by the way, going back to the game, I wish I was at. Any three of their Super Bowls would have been awesome to be at. And I actually had the opportunity to go to
I was at the one where they got their tails kicked by the Redskins. I was covering that one.
Unfortunately, we don't like to talk about that one. And I almost went to the one where they lost to Seattle, so I'm glad I didn't go. But anyway, this item could have been a dream come true for Dave Rieger, who went to cover Super Bowl 40 in Detroit, and it should have been Seattle, Denver. But Pittsburgh went into Mile High and beat him in the AFC Championship game. But covering the game, they gave away these little booklets here.
I got one of those.
Nice.
Notepads and stuff. So it's still cool. It was in Detroit. I covered it with my brother, Jeff. So I still have it, but it could have been so much better because I guarantee the Broncos, talking about turning back time, they would have crushed Seattle and won that Super Bowl for sure. So that's my
how'd that work out for you? Dan, we have like a Lions-Broncos bet every year. He drives me nuts, but I love Dave. Greg, what do you got? I bet is it Alexander Ovechkin's jockstrap?
Close. Close. But it is something. Actually, this was a gift. A little Braden Holtby signed jersey given to me by Fox 2 cameraman extraordinaire Keith Junquist, who just has connections. And after they won, this was on my desk one day. I walked in and it's great, love it, have it all the time as a nice reminder. Hopefully, in a month and a half or so, they can play again. It'd be nice.
Beautiful. Let's go, Caps. Dan, I know you got like a million things behind you. You can pick anything to be great.
Yeah, no, I got something I'll show you. I'll show you guys this too. This is my that's my killer wall over there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
nice.
Pictures of Killer over there. So that's always behind me. I miss him. It's a big part of what happened to me here as well. I should say that. So 15 years ago, my parents were cleaning out their basement, and they summoned me from Detroit to come clean my crap. So I had to go clean out of their basement, and I was going through a bunch of old boxes, and I found this envelope, and I had no idea what was in this envelope. And I opened it up, and I have still to this day have no idea how I got it. It was a bag tag from the 1973 U.S. Open at Oakmont. So hang on,
awesome.
We're not done. We're not done. That, of course, why is that famous? Johnny Miller shot a 63 in the final round for one of the greatest rounds in the history of golf.
Ever.
So I was scheduled to interview Johnny Miller 2 weeks later at this. They had called up and said he was promoting something at the Senior Player Championship in Dearborn. So they had called up and said, do you want to interview Johnny Miller? So I'm at my house and I find these things and I'm like, I still don't know where they came from. My dad wasn't a sports fan. I have no idea where I would have gotten this. And I've never done this and I don't do this, but I did it this time. So I interviewed Johnny Miller and I did the thing and we were done. And I said, look, I don't do this. I said, but I'm going to do it right now. I said, I found these and I have no idea where they came from. I said, would you mind signing them? And I showed him the bag tag. And he looks at me and he goes, "Where did you get that?" And I said, "Johnny, I have no idea." I said, "I found them in an envelope in my parents' basement." Now, the only thing I can think of is I worked at a place a long time ago where we did a lot of golf, and we must have been cleaning out drawers or something, and I grabbed them and we were throwing them out or something like that. So he looks at me, he says, "Where'd you get them?" I said, "I have no idea." And I said, "Would you sign them for me?" He goes, "You want me to sign all of them?" I had 4 of them. He goes, I said, "If you wouldn't mind," he goes, "I'll make a deal with you." He said, "If you give me one, I'll sign them for you." I said, "Done." So there it is. It's one of my favorite items.
Awesome.
It is 1973 awesome. U.S. Open at Oakmont, bag tag, signed by Johnny Miller, which is a great golf guy. That's just one of, I mean, the incredible confluence of circumstances of finding these, having no idea where the heck they came from, and then knowing that I was going to be talking to him shortly after that. And the really cool part was his face. The really cool part was his face when he looked and said, "Where did you get those?" And I had no idea. And then him asking for one. And I was like, "Take one. Absolutely." So to see that it meant that much to him was really cool as well. So that's one of my favorite items that I've got. I haven't probably collected as much as I should, but that's one of my favorites.
It's pretty sick. And speaking of great announcers, I know he's divisive, but Johnny Miller is one of, I think, the greatest announcers in any sport ever.
First one to say choke, right? So he called it like it was. Yeah, I mean, he called it like it was.
All right, so I've got an honor of you being the voice of the Detroit Lions, me being a Lion slap, face painter, whatever you want to call me. I got a good friend. His company's called the D-Line. Local companies will support local. But because we're in this crazy situation, we don't know when sports is coming back. We all just need to keep calm and carry on.
Nice.
Keep calm and carry on.
How sweet was that tweet the other day about y'all can work out and not have to tell somebody about it? That was awesome. Not to mention the picture of him on the beach with beautiful woman. But Carry On's got such a dry sense of humor.
He's awesome.
He will cut you before you know it. He's great. I love him.
I'll tell you this.
Big year.
Me too. That guy stays healthy with DeAndre Swift in the backfield together. The Lions might have a ridiculously legit running game for the first time in a long time. Like that could be a thunder and lightning. Ty Johnson too. But that could be a thunder and lightning to end it all. Let's hope they play.
As I like to say, Dan, your mouth to God's ears. We're waiting.
Yes.
We're ready to roll.
Well, I got to tell all of you this, and Dave knows how much I love him. And Greg, thanks so much for joining us on True Gak Attack. You've always been so supportive of me. And Dan, it's one of those things where when you get to start in something with a guy that's a hero to you and someone that you've looked up to your entire career, and at the same time, you've been so supportive of what I've always tried to do. And yes, I'm crazy, but as you mentioned earlier, and I can't thank you enough, I've always tried to be a good person. I can't thank you enough for not just on a personal note, the inspiration you've been in my career, but what you do for all these people in this chat tonight, people that were responding on Twitter when I told you were coming on. You mean a lot to a lot of people. And I think you know that, but I hope you really know that, because not just what you do with the Lions play-by-play, not just what you do with Fox 2, but just you're a great guy. And I want to thank you on behalf of myself and us, but all these people watching, all the people that have talked to me, throughout since I've been your intern back in 2099, that you mean a lot to this city. And without you, it just wouldn't be what it is.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I wish there were words that I could say that would convey what that means to me. I just can't express what this city has meant to me and the way that the people have made my career. I mean, that's really what it is. Like I said, you come someplace with a dream. The people here have accepted me and allowed me to have a career. And whether it's behind the mic with the Lions or working with Greg at Fox 2, I never go a moment without being greatly appreciative. And everything you say, Dan, means a lot. And, look, you surround yourself with good people. You treat people the way that you want to be treated. And look, I'm really fortunate. I got to work with a lot of great people and see the way that they conducted themselves, and you can learn a lot by doing that. So I will simply say I had great role models in my life And I just try to, live the way they lived, and that's served me well so far.
Beautifully said. All right, parting shots, Greg Cantor. The GAC gets to go first. Parting shots.
What am I supposed to say? Is this
anything you want.
Thing? Oh, okay.
We know you're the producer. You should be running.
Yeah, well, I'm just good. Yeah, well, it was funny. I was watching a lot of times where Dave and I are kind of, the producer type of people for this show, and just nod and watch while you two just yammer on.
Yeah, that's basically how it is.
Yep. Yeah, I know. Yep. That's our role.
Hey, behind every great man is a great producer.
Yep.
I'll just say I'm thrilled and honored to have been here as long as I have, and thank Dan for bringing me here in the first place. And yeah, I mean, he's right. There's no better place to work and no better people to work with, and makes it fun. And we've been through a lot over 20 plus years, and it's great to see also interns and also people you've seen young in the business kind of be successful. Dan, obviously you're one of those, and so it's been a great ride so far.
Beautiful. Dave?
I love working with Dan. I cut up the highlights on Sundays, and he gets so excited when the Lions make a big play. It's a lot of fun. It's really cool. I get to put together this Lions rewind at the end that they play on Monday morning.
Dave, before you finish, Dan, ask him how focused he is on the Lions when the Broncos are playing during those broadcasts.
I'm
ask him that
100% focused when the Broncos
He's a professional.
I'm 100% focused on the Lions. Usually the Lions play at 1, the Broncos play at 4, so it works out perfect. But I always end every show with the same quote from my favorite TV coach from Friday Night Lights: "Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose."
There you go.
Beautiful. Dan, anything to say to the legions of fans that have been praised on this show?
First of all, thank you, Greg, for being here, and thank you for everything you do for me. Same with you, Dave. I appreciate you guys, and you're the people that others don't see or hear, and we can't do what we do without you. So, Dan, thank you for having me. But look, all I can say is what I've said. I'm so appreciative for everything that has happened to me here, and the people that have allowed me to be in their lives, in their cars, in their kitchens, in their living rooms, whatever it is. I owe it all to you. Nothing that has happened to me since I've been here would happen if it weren't for the people of Detroit. So I greatly appreciate it. So let's get through this. Let's stay safe. Let's all find the other side of this thing and get back to doing what we love, which is getting out there and being crazy and watching games and enjoying things. So let's do what we got to do to get to the other side. Let's get people. I want to see people back at work. I want to see people being safe. I want to see everything that everybody wants: safety, people working, everything. No political agenda here. I just want to get back to the life that we all know and love, and the life that we need.
Beautifully said, my friend. I can't say it any better. And for me, I just can't thank you enough for spending some time with us tonight. Dave, as always, Greg, love you. Wash your hands, people. Spread love, not hate. And as I always like to say, believe in the dream. For the great Dave Rieger, Greg Cantor, and the legendary Dan Miller, Dan Leach saying, thanks so much, everybody. Until next time, the task force out. Keep calm and carry on. Keep calm and carry on. Yeah.
See you guys.